The biggest privilege in this life, besides having health, being born in a healthy body and having healthy genes, is having a good childhood. Basically, having good parents that don't hate you. That is an underrated privilege that those of you who were raised without it are only just starting to realize that the side effects of having parents that are toxic and mean and narcissistic do not end when your childhood ends. And actually, as life goes, they become worse and worse because we turn what we did in order to survive those environments into adaptations so rigid that became our own personality. So essentially, we've created our entire personality based on how many things we could do to avoid being hurt, being humiliated, being rejected. So, really, what happens through childhood, being raised by people like that, is that you create this performance of a self that you put out into the world, hoping that the world will not treat you horribly like your parents did. As opposed to some people who were just allowed to exist, who were just allowed to be, to make mistakes, you know? That's not the case for a lot of you. So have this dialogue with me while I start talk about narcissistic parents, the side effects of being raised by them, and how we can begin to heal from such a horrible and traumatic experience. Okay, so if you are new here, my name is Evita, and I specifically focus on this channel to teach people about the side effects of narcissistic parental abuse. And a lot of people will question why I do that instead of just teaching you how to be happy, how to manifest millions, how to, I don't know, whatever, something future forward kind of thing. And also, a lot of people say, not specifically to me, but consider that the approach of talking about the past being something that is wasting time and we're dwelling in the past and we're being, it's victimization and we're just like it's victimhood mindset and all of that. To which I say, first of all, I do not care what people think, but my lived experience and my work with so many people has proven that there's no amount of manifestation techniques or brainwashing you can do to outsmart and release traumatic events that are stored in your body, in your psyche, and have actually been the building blocks of your personality. Because when you're raised by people who are emotionally violent, who criticize you, shame you, abuse you, ridicule you, wholeheartedly reject you, you don't just go like, oh no, nobody loves me here, but it's okay. When I grow up, people will love me, and then you go out into life. No, you actually think that this is your fault, that you deserve to be treated this way, that something that you're doing is causing this, so you become responsible for your own victimization. And at the end of all of this, what you realize deeply in a place where nobody can convince you otherwise is that you are unworthy. Because if you were worthy of good things, you would have those things. Children don't think that they're worthy of things unless the world around them gives them to them. So if a child is treated with disrespect, with yelling, name calling, horrible behaviors, they don't think, wait a minute, what's wrong with my parent? They think, how worthless am I to be treated this way? We take the environment, we see our environment, and we determine who we are based on how the environment treats us because we're kids and we do not know better. As an effect, then, we become adults that walk around this earth feeling fundamentally and viscerally unworthy of the most decent of things: respect, kindness, love, safety. So, all of the things that were denied of us when we were kids, continue to feel like things we will not deserve in our adult lives until we earn them. And the reason we have to keep talking about childhood trauma is not because we want to dwell on it or blame the parents, which, by the way, I have no problem doing, because we have to say things for what they are, and they are to blame. If they treat you a certain way, it doesn't matter why, that doesn't absolve the responsibility or the effect of what they did to you just because they didn't know better. If somebody didn't know better than to hurt you every single day, they're still responsible for not treating you better, right? But the thing is that many people try to employ positive thinking, change of perspective, and all this stuff that is just ridiculous to watch. People gaslight themselves to the maximum extent so that they can see their past as something that they should also be grateful for. Now, before I proceed, I want to give you one example of that. And also then, if I hopefully don't lose my train of thought, I will also tell you something about how I view it in my personal life currently, right? It's two different things. And you're going to have to make your own sort of decision on where you stand. So I saw this video the other day. This girl was like, she was talking about her experience, her childhood trauma. Her mother was raised them on her own, but she had no time for them. Her father was, I don't know, had some issues. He left them, blah, 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 all these things. Horrible stuff. She was saying a lot of horrible stuff. And then she said, oh no, do you hear how it sounds? And then she said the story in a way where she reframed it all, saying, you know, my mom was such a strong woman, and my dad actually gave me this best gift, like whatever, gaslighting herself completely to see what happened to her under a positive light. And this can feel hopeful in the moment that you're doing it, but the amount of denial this requires is massive. And if you are in denial about how your mother betrayed you, how your father harmed you, how your parents essentially failed you, then I hate to break it to you, but when you go out and have a relationship with someone else, you're going to continue doing this stuff. And that's why you have people coming out of abusive relationships and they're like, you know what? He did all these horrible things, but he was actually a teacher to me. He taught me so many. Some abuser who cheated on you, right, who lied to you throughout the relationship and just used you, is now a mystical, teacher that taught you some spiritual truths. The denial of your past is going to carry you through your entire life. If you're in denial about the past, about who your parents were, what they did to you, you're going to be in denial about everything. And you're also going to be in denial about yourself. Now, with that said, me, for example, not that I am like a superior human being or anything, I'm just going to give you the example that I've done this work, this grief work, for so many years. Eventually, I came to a place where I thought, it is what it is. This whole thing happened. I cannot change it. And in all honesty, I wouldn't be who I am if this hadn't happened to me. If this wasn't my experience. Now, am I thankful it happened? No. No, because at the same time, I can think if I had a better childhood, better parents, more support, if I had been nurtured more, I wouldn't spend most of my life trying to recover from having a childhood. So imagine how much more I would be able to do. So you see what I'm doing? We really can't conflate it. We can truly realize that some experiences happen for the reason that they have and essentially may have brought us where we are. But let's not deny ourselves the reality that if those things hadn't happened, we would have been better off. We could have learned the lessons through a different channel and we could have been happy instead. We could have been learning through love and not through pain and abuse, right? So in our effort to make sense and to stay in denial and to stay in connection, we will deny ourselves the truth. Because the truth is not just going to set you free, as Alice Miller said, but what the truth is going to do is going to wreck everything. If you see the truth about what your parents did to you, you're probably not going to want to talk to them for a while. And if you see the truth about who you became in order to survive, you're probably going to have to force yourself to do some work and change. Right? So it really it's an avalanche of things. The moment you stop denying to yourself the reality of what happened to you, it's going to be impossible to deny yourself any other truth that is lingering and you've been pretending that it's not there. So, the reason we have to go back and look at this is because it will explain to us why we are the way we are. And it also is going to awaken us to the fact that we were betrayed and we were failed and we were hurt and we were treated unfairly. And then we have to grieve. And then we're going to be angry. And then we're going to rebel. And then we're going to cause some chaos. We're going to do all the things that are necessary when things internally are getting reorganized, which is something that a lot of us may want to avoid. We may have to make decisions. We may have to hold distance. We may have to lose privileges. So if you're sitting here feeling crippled, emotionally crippled, unable to do life, you have clear signs of PTSD, you struggle with the inner hating voice, you're frozen with perfectionism, you're stuck in patterns, you can't get your life moving. You see everybody manage to do things and you're like, I can't even, or you have areas in your life that are completely and chronically stuck. Or you have patterns in your life that never seem to resolve. And when you go to therapy or when you try to talk about it, you're like, I'm not going to blame my parents though, They were also traumatized. So it is what it is. Too soon to say it is what it is. Unless you go into the trenches of your grief. Unless you cry so much that it hurts. And all of that hurt, by the way, is not even current hurt. Can you imagine that the grief that you will encounter when you do your healing work is the grief that you, the child you, was not allowed to feel or thought that she couldn't manage? So what do you think? Why do you think we have to keep talking about? We're so obsessed with going forward and prolonging things and creating success and creating all these things that we will literally look at our younger self and be like, you know what? Forget it. It's done now. We're in the, what do you mean? What do you mean? It would be easy. And I've spoken to people who did all types of therapy. And there's specific types of therapy that addresses symptoms, right? So you will go in with a phobia of water and it will be resolved in 8 weeks. But then it will transform to a new phobia or some other neurosis of some other sort. Because nobody is talking about why you feel the way that you do. Nobody's talking about why you daydream your life away. Nobody's talking about why you're fearful and they're just telling you just go on the apps and meet someone. And there's somebody out there for you. Nobody's talking about why you have crippling anxiety. Why? You have everything going for you. And nobody's talking about why you keep falling apart. And they're like, why? Just do it like the rest of us. But you're not like the rest of us, are you? Right? If what happened to you, it really damaged you. And it impaired so many of your abilities to do life easily. Because you're carrying pain from the past, immense pain and grief and disappointment, and a very heavy sense of unworthiness that became the building block of your entire personality. Because that's it. If you look deep down into who you are, all you will find is somebody unworthy. Because that's the first mirroring that you were given. But anyway, all of these things happened to you and you just try to manage and you carry all that pain and you're stumbling upon life. You can't really do life. And then life happens too. when you're an adult. And life happens to everybody, by the way. But to you, when you already have all of that burden, it's even heavier. So it's almost like you're trying to climb this mountain of life, carrying a massive load on your back, tied up on your throat. And you can barely breathe and you can barely climb up. And then there's stuff thrown at you from the mountain, which is life happening. It's not bad luck. It's not a bad eye. It's just life. Life is life. Life is going to life, right? Jung said life is never going to leave you alone because it is what it is. And nobody is exempt from being human in one capacity or the next, no matter how many people now think, I control my reality. Sure. If you create your own reality to such an extent, maybe you should do something bigger with all of these powers and change the world too, right? So it's kind of like, anyway, don't get me started on that. But anyway, so things are being thrown and you're already choking and you're already like in a bad state. And then you're slowly descending. And the rest of the people may brush off those stones or get hurt a little bit, but they're climbing because they're not carrying eons of grief on their back. And also they believe in themselves. And also they feel good about who they are. And also they have hope about a future. And they know life is going to provide for them. And they have a circle of friends that supports them. And they have healthy relationships to other people. Do you see where this is going? That the importance of the past doesn't lie in the fact, and you know, people are being shamed. You're dwelling on the past. They're shaming people for dwelling on the past because the past is holding the truth. If the past wasn't important, why are we learning history? Why are we so obsessed with learning history? We should just be like, doesn't matter. Anyway, history repeats itself at the same time, even if we're learning it. So it doesn't really matter. Why are we learning history? Why do we need to know? But when it comes to our personal history, we're told, no, brush it off. Here's a technique. Just affirm that. Just get a job. Just make money. Just get married. Just. And we're like, okay, I'm going to tick all the boxes. I'm a mess, but I'm going to go on the dating apps and I'm going to find somebody. I'm going to marry them and I'm going to be happy. And then we end up being miserable. And we're like, I did it all. Why am I not happy? And they're like, no, I need to get a better job. Okay, no, I need to have another kid. No, I need to divorce this person and then I'm going to be happy. And then when we're divorcing, we're like, great, I'm happy. And then it's like, oh no, I'm going to find a new lover now and I'm going to marry someone. We're always constantly looking the next thing that we're going to do that's going to make us feel happy. But we're just running away from what is within. That is never going to go away, no matter how happy we pretend to be. The underlying experience of everyone that has been raised by narcissistic parents is a deep sense of unworthiness and chronic sense of loneliness. Because nobody looked at you and saw you. Nobody looked into your inner world. Nobody really knew who you were. I remember once I was at an interview for a master's and they asked me something about, I don't remember the question. Oh, some people that you would like to meet that are no longer here or something like that. And the first thing that came into my mind was a teacher I had in preschool. So I was like, what, 5? Because I couldn't get over how lovingly that woman looked at me. Like the way, I couldn't get over it. I never forgot that woman looked at me in a way that I hadn't been looked at before. Because I was a very opinionated child, I was always, the effort was always to control me, to shut me down and all that. But this woman had this welcoming attitude toward me that years later, when I was told, who would you want to talk to again? I was thinking, I would love to look at this woman's eyes again and just thank her for doing that, because something about that mirroring gave me an experience that I carry. I've never forgotten that. And I remember the age that I remember what I looked like. I remember everything. I remember everything that I saw in her eyes. And that changed so much about what I can recall from who I was, besides all the projections that I received, right? And this isn't a unique experience, right, to me. Everybody who's been raised by parents like that has been projected onto horrible things. Even if words aren't used, the way you're looked at, the way you're treated, is just so unwelcoming. As a person, you're not welcome to be, to exist, to be yourself, right? So obviously, if we don't talk about the past, and if you don't realize what happened to you, how can you retrieve the sense of who you are if you don't go into these ruins of your inner world and find the essence of who you were and raise her, reparent her back to an adult? So, what these parents do to you is not just actions that you're going to tell the world, and the world's going to say, well, that wasn't bad enough, or oh no, I feel sorry for you. Like, it doesn't matter what people think about what happened to you. Your experience is valid. If it hurts, it hurts. If you're having all these symptoms, something happened, right? Also, there was another video I saw. The girl started with a video saying, um, my mom is my best friend, right? And then she went on to say her mom was stealing money from her. Like she said all these crazy stuff about what her mom did to her. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, right? And it feels like the way we're able to deny ourselves the reality of who these people were is keeping us stuck. But we're afraid to do it because the consequences are serious. With all of this revolution with mental health and people doing their own inner work and also taking all that work and doing it internally, right? It's not gate kept anymore. You can buy a program on how to do everything and anything, but also at the same time, you don't need a specific product because the answers are here, right? In my own product, what I do is I guide you through places and then you find the answers. I'm not going to tell you what you feel or what happened to you because I don't know. I know where to take you to make sure you check. It's almost like we're turning all the rocks, we're turning all the places where hurt could have happened, in depending on the mother bond, mother wounds, father wounds, whatever, right? But the truth is in you. You just have to access it. So all this revolution, in reality, what it's doing is this. People are waking up. And I speak to women here mostly, so I'll say women are waking up, and that is not good news for most places around you. It's not good for society, workplace, or your family of origin. Because when you wake up, you set boundaries. You don't allow to be disrespected. You create distance. You don't obey. You don't perform. You don't chase your worth externally, really, is what happens. And so when these abusive parents now need you to take care of them, you're like, no. And they're like, what do you mean? Who's going to take care of us? And then the government is going to be like, no, now we're stuck with all these old people that their kids were supposed to take care of them. They're your responsibility. They're our responsibility. It's almost like, we did you a favor, bring it back. But their favor was not a favor. It was a choice to have kids. And then in that choice of having the kids, you also chose to abuse them. What about that, right? So when we are revolutionary level, well, when we are, awakened in that way, and we dare to look at the past and be like, wait a minute, this person I worshipped and have on a pedestal was actually an abuser. And then we go to work, and when our boss is doing crazy stuff, we're like, I don't need your approval, dude. And is there a price to that? Of course. There's always a price to standing up. There's always a price. But you're not the only one who's going to get consequences. You are going to set the boundaries. You are going to not allow people to walk all over you anymore. And you're also going to continue to climb up that mountain and get yourself somewhere where you can build a sense of home in this world. Maybe on your path there, you meet some people. And together you build a life. Doesn't necessarily mean romantically. You can have good friends. But everything that you release is just another thing of this chokehold that you have to throw back and let go. But before you let it go, you have to know what it is so that you can resolve what it taught you, right? Because you say, yeah, the past is fine. I'm going to release the past. Yeah, but what about what the past taught you? How are you going to release that if you don't recognize it, if you don't see it? Honestly, this conversation of trying to remove responsibility from parents and burden children to just go like adult children, to just move on and be functional when their mental health is crippling, right? And it has side effect in every area of their lives, some in financial, some in romantic relationships, some in general, in so many ways, some in every area, because it's hard to build a life on these horrible foundations these parents set you up with. Because first of all, you're afraid to be yourself. Like, let's start from there. You feel unworthy and you're afraid to be yourself. This is the, imagine if you're 18, you're opening the door, you're like, now I'm an adult. And you're like, I am unworthy of anything good and I'm not allowed to be myself. Now what? Oh, let me wear masks. Let me pretend. Let me please. Let me perform. Let me do the things that the society is telling me I have to do in order to feel worthy. Let me chase this man and let me marry him. Let me have the kids. Let me just do whatever I'm supposed to do so that I can feel good. And then we never feel good. And we wonder why. So if you are the child of such parents, I'm not going to give you a productivity hack. I rarely give you tips or tricks to things, as you know. If you're new here, maybe you don't. But if you're listening to all this and saying, but what am I supposed to do? I'm going to tell you something. After listening to all of this, the only logical answer I want you to get to is to realize that you have permission to name the abuse that happened to you, and that this permission doesn't remove your responsibility to get your life together. So, what I want you to do after you finish this video is sit down and journal about whatever comes up in your life in terms of the things that you're trying to be in denial about. And I want you to list them, I want you to name them, to be unafraid to say what you need to say in paper. You don't have to go and be like, Mom, you did this to me. Dad, don't. I have a whole video about that. Don't judge parents, your emotionally mature parents or something. But generally, I don't think you should take it to them. Take it to your therapist or take it to your journal. What things are you in denial about? First question. Second question, what pattern is the most recurring theme of your life? What's the thing that keeps happening to you? And you're going to write about it so much so that you're going to have to trace it back to when it started and what it's serving you for. And the third question is, how can I move toward change? What would I need to let go of? What would I need to stop doing? What would I need to start doing? What do I need to allow myself to see? Because self-honesty is your ticket out there. People can tell you all sorts of things. We shouldn't do this. We shouldn't do. You decide what you need to do. But your inner system will know what to do with all of these things, because all it's asking you to do is to name what happened to you and address it and heal it. Or else it's not going to let it go. It's almost like you have all these parts in you, which, by the way, children of narcissistic parents are so fragmented internally of all these parts because they've been traumatized casually all the time, right? Your most traumatic events were probably just a Tuesday for your parent, right? Just a regular old Tuesday, something they said, and then they move on with the day and you've been traumatized forever. But the thing is, you have so many parts that are fragmented, and it seems like they're calling you. That's why they're stalling you. Everything that is stopping you from moving forward is just a part that wants your attention. And you need to heal these parts. And you heal enough of them, most of them, go back and rescue them. And then you will reach a point where you're finally relearning and unlearning and settling and reaching that building block of worth that you will just rip out or remove and build a new one, which will say, I'm worthy and I am good enough. And when you have that as a foundation of who you are, no matter how much you're failing and life is stuck and things are happening, you're going to be okay. Because that belief has been driving all of what has been happening. Your choices, the way you think about yourself, what you do, what you allow, right? So if that belief of unworthiness shifts to a true belief of worth because you've done the work to prove to yourself that, you know what, I'm worth this effort. I'm worth someone protecting me, respecting me, rescuing me, loving me, being kind to me. And that someone is you, by the way. You as the parent to yourself. This is an inner work. Nobody can do this for you in the sense that nobody can save you from all of that. You have to go in and access these places. And slowly, slowly, trace it all back to finding your sense of worth. When you have that, then life can start over differently. I'll see you soon.